He stepped into the grand hall, the sound of laughter and chatter ringing in his ears. The soft glow from the chandeliers above danced across polished floors, illuminating faces full of joy, but Alex felt out of place. He had arrived late to the annual charity gala just as the speeches were starting to wind down. As he made his way through the crowd, he couldn't shake the feeling of being a stranger among friends. He had almost turned around and walked out. But he had fought back that urge, telling himself he could at least show respect by being present. After all, he had donated generously this year, even if he had doubts about belonging in such a high-class environment. Every glance he caught seemed like a whisper highlighting his late arrival. He wished he could be like those effortlessly charming people who glided through gathering after gathering, their laughter ringing familiar and warm. He felt like a ghost lingering behind the living, an awkward outsider in a world he barely understood. Alex had stumbled on this event nearly by accident, urged by a friend who believed in the cause. The charity was dedicated to providing education for underserved youth, and on some days it felt like the only kindness left in the world. Somehow their mission tugged at his heart, even as his mind battled feelings of inadequacy. As he wandered about searching for a familiar face, he found himself drawn to a display on the far wall. There, elegantly framed and sparkling under the light, was a massive plaque, the Hall of Donors. He felt a pang of curiosity push him forward, his eyes widening as he scanned the names engraved on that beautiful wood. But beneath that curiosity, a gnawing fear settled in. What if his name hadn't made the cut? What if all his contributions, all those late nights filling out the donation forms, were insignificant? At that moment, he saw it. His heart raced, pushing its way into his throat. There it was, Alex Thompson, carved boldly into the wood. It felt surreal seeing his name up there among so many others. A mix of pride and disbelief washed over him. He imagined what it meant. Each name stood for someone who had opened their hearts and wallets, but each name also held stories, struggles, hopes, dreams. Alex felt a sudden, warm swell of belonging, but it quickly flickered under a wave of doubt. What had he really done for these kids? He remembered his own childhood and the lack of opportunities that had often enveloped him. He had worked hard for everything he had achieved, but he had also been lucky. As he stood staring at his name, the emotions inside him churned. Could it really make a difference? If he felt this way, could others? Suddenly, a voice broke through his thoughts, snapping him back to reality. Alex, it was Jenna, the event coordinator, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She earned her passion for this charity, and that spirit was contagious. Seeing her brought a wave of comfort, but even as she praised him for his generosity, there was a knot in his stomach. "I didn't mean to be late," he stammered, his voice trailing off. "Oh, don't worry about that. What matters is that you're here," she smiled. "Come, let me introduce you to some of the others." Before he could protest, she took his arm and led him through the throng. Each introduction felt like stepping deeper into uncharted waters. Names and faces began to swirl in his head, a blur of laughter, stories, and professionalism, each person more accomplished than he felt. Yet Jenna's enthusiasm was infectious. "You know, you're part of something bigger," she insisted. "This year we're expanding our programs, reaching more kids than ever." As she spoke, a strange warmth nestled against his doubts. Maybe he hadn't simply donated money. Maybe he was a part of this community, however awkwardly. It was a new kind of strength, planting roots deeper than he ever thought possible. Moments passed, and he found himself standing by a large window with Jenna, overlooking the city skyline, vibrant against the night sky. Beneath the stars, something began to flicker in him. Jenna asked gently, noticing the change in his expression. "Just thinking about the kids we're helping," he replied. "I mean, is it enough?" Jenna nodded knowingly. "It can. It's not just about the money. It's about hope, about believing someone cares." Her words hung in the air, and when they settled into him, he began to truly grasp what this was all about. He started remembering the young boy he had mentored the past summer, Jasper. Just a few months ago, he had been shy and withdrawn, afraid to share his dreams. But with each session, slowly, Jasper began to smile and express the ideas that danced in his head. Maybe it really was possible to make a difference. Maybe the money was more than just numbers, it was keys to doors that had been locked for too long. Alex felt his heart stir again, stronger this time. The night went on, filled with laughter and stories shared over delicious food. Yet in between mazes of conversations and laughter, he realized he was moving from the shadows into the light. He opened up, sharing stories of his own childhood, vulnerabilities he seldom spoke about. Then it occurred to him, other people weren't perfect either. He looked around the room and saw in their faces the same fears he had. Everyone was navigating their own paths, searching for a way to be heard and make a mark. As the night wore on, the major event of the evening arrived: speeches from top donors, staff, and even some students who had benefited from their generosity. Each one came up inspired by their own experiences, hoping to share the impact these donations had made. When one of the students, an articulate girl named Mia, spoke about her newfound hope, Alex felt a depth in those words that shook him to his core. She described a life once filled with despair, now transformed through education and support. Tears in her eyes mirrored his own feelings, and just like that, the stakes felt higher. It wasn't just about fitting in anymore, it was about becoming. He had found a cause he cared about, and perhaps it was time to embrace that power and use it. Near the end of the night, Jenna pulled him aside again. "You know, Alex, we'd love to have you more involved next year. You could lead a workshop or mentor some kids." The nod of doubt surfaced again, and he hesitated. "Lead a workshop," she encouraged. "You've got a story, you've overcome hardship, and now you can help others do the same." Her enthusiasm lit a fire in him, and though he felt fear creeping in, he nodded slowly. As the gala wound down, Alex made his way back to the plaque once more to find that glimmering name, Alex Thompson. It no longer felt like a mark of just financial contribution. It now bore the weight of responsibility and hope. Perhaps this was only the beginning. He decided then, standing amidst a crowd of strangers, that he would embrace this, not just as a silent observer, but as a participant. By taking those next steps, he could transform his late arrival into a powerful entry into this world. Tonight had been more than a night of socializing or money raised. It was a call to act, to belong, to effect real change. As he walked out into the fresh night air, he felt lighter, almost as if the weight of doubt had slipped away. He wasn't just witnessing change, he was part of it now, and the road ahead sparkled with hope and potential. The clock struck 7, and the elegant doors of the grand hall swung open wide. Guests moved like currents in a river, laughter rippling through the marble-floored expanse. Outside, the setting sun painted the sky in deep shades of purple and gold. But inside, Alex Thompson could only feel panic rising in his chest. He was late, and walking into this lively gala felt more like stepping onto a stage where he had missed the first act. Trying to shake off the weight of his tardiness, he put one foot in front of the other, weaving through tables adorned with candlelit centerpieces and people dressed in formal gowns and sharp suits. Everyone seemed to know each other. He felt like a ghost lingering at the edge of a world he didn't quite belong to. But Alex had promised himself he would come tonight. He had to show support for the cause that had become dear to his heart. As he moved further inside, he caught snippets of conversation. Words like impact, hope, and possibilities floated through the air. They filled him with an unexpected sense of warmth. Yet he felt overshadowed, a mere spectator in a room full of luminaries, people who had the resources, the connections, the ability to make a real difference. Then, as the crowd's laughter echoed, Alex's gaze caught on a polished oak plaque mounted against the wall, the Hall of Donors. His heart raced, and he felt an urge to approach it. Perhaps it was foolish, but he needed to see if his name had made it up there, alongside those of others who had given so much. What if it wasn't there? He pushed forward somewhat reluctantly and examined the names etched into the wood. His fingers brushed the surface, feeling the cool grain under his touch. He scanned the list, searching for that flicker of recognition, the proof that he had contributed something worthwhile. And then it hit him. Felt a rush of mixed emotions, relief, pride, and an unsettling twist of self-doubt. It felt surreal to see his name among those who had undoubtedly given more than he had. It wrapped around him like a dark cloud. Just as he was savoring this moment of triumph, a wave of discomfort swept over him. What had he really done? Could money in a donation box change lives? Alex thought back to his own childhood and the struggles he had faced. Suddenly, the joy fizzled, replaced by an ache in his chest. A warm voice pulled him back to reality. It was Jenna, the event coordinator, her face alight with enthusiasm. He managed a weak smile, but his heart still hung heavy. "I'm sorry I'm late," he muttered, brushing aside the weight of self-criticism. "Oh, don't worry about that." Jenna's voice sparkled with optimism. She took his arm and led him away from the plaque. Although he felt an immense sense of pride at having his name up there, he also felt exposed. The weight of it clung to him. He was stepping into a sea of high achievers, and beneath their grace he feared he would sink. "Meet Dr. Kumar," Jenna said, pointing to a well-dressed woman whose presence commanded attention. Dr. Kumar smiled warmly, but all Alex could think of was how far he felt from being able to make a difference. As they chatted, her passion for helping others electrified the air. "It's amazing what we can achieve when we work together," she emphasized. "Yeah," he replied, but the words felt hollow. How could his small contributions compare to the vision she had? Behind his polite smile, a storm brewed in his heart. He was grateful, but he was also grappling with insecurities that clawed at him. And the night continued like that, a blur of names and faces, laughter echoing in the grand hall. Each introduction felt like a spotlight shining on his shortfalls. "Let's gather everyone for the program," Jenna called out after some time. Alex found himself glancing around at the crowd, excitement sparkling in their eyes while he felt anchored in uncertainty. As they took their seats, the atmosphere shifted. A soft hush covered the room as a charismatic announcer took the stage. "Thank you all for being here." Cheers erupted, and for a moment Alex felt his heart lift. One by one, speakers came to the front. Their stories unfolded, each more inspiring than the last. Some were students who had risen from hardship. Others were benefactors recounting why they chose to give. But it was the third speaker, a young girl named Mia, who truly captured his attention. Mia stood before the audience, her small frame steady as she spoke. "Before this program, I thought my dreams were impossible," she said, her voice strong yet vulnerable. I didn't think I was worth much. In that moment, tears filled Alex's eyes. He saw his younger self in Mia, the boy who once hesitated to voice his dreams, afraid no one would listen. Her bravery ignited something deep in him, a glimmer of hope that maybe he too could be more than just a bystander. As Mia continued, she spoke of hope and possibilities, of teachers who believed in her, of donors who had given her a chance. Each word resonated within him, chipping away at his apprehensions. When her speech concluded, the applause thundered around him. Alex realized that this wasn't simply about money. This was a movement, a collective effort to believe in change, to lift each other out of despair. Suddenly, he wanted to be involved, not just as a donor, but as a participant. After the program, Jennifer approached him again, her enthusiasm undimmed. "Didn't Mia just shine?" "Yeah," he said, still grappling with the emotions swimming within him. "Alex, we really want your voice to be a part of this," Jenna pressed. He hesitated, the doubts creeping back in. "Come on, you have so much to offer. You resonate with these kids. You're their age and spirit. You've made it through tough times." Her words hit him like a wave, washing over the doubts that threatened to drown him. He thought back to that moment in front of the Hall of Donors. Could he truly belong? Could his story inspire someone else? A flicker of courage ignited within him. Perhaps he didn't need to be perfect, he just needed to be present. "Okay," he said slowly, heart racing. "I'll think about it." As the night wound down and the crowd began to disperse, Alex found himself drawn once again to the Hall of Donors. Under the dim light, he stood there quietly, gazing at his name. It no longer felt like a plate of insignificance. Now it symbolized a promise. The promise to step forward, to be part of something larger than himself, and to inspire change in the lives of others, just as Mia had inspired him. He walked home that night feeling a sense of purpose filling his chest. He had arrived late, yes, but he was ready to make every moment count from here on out. Perhaps the true journey was just beginning. In that grand hall under the shimmering lights, he realized he wasn't just a name on a plaque, but a soul capable of igniting hope. As he stepped into the cool night air, he felt lighter, braver. The road ahead sparkled with possibilities, and as he walked away from that gala, he knew he was ready to embrace whatever came next. No longer just an observer now, a participant in a story that would unfold one page at a time. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second echoing in Alex's mind like a drum roll that heralded his worst fears. He slipped through the grand entrance of the Crystal Ballroom just as the annual charity gala was reaching its peak. A sea of elegantly dressed people swirled around him, glasses clinking and laughter bubbling like a joyful waterfall. He felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on him, though most were blissfully unaware of his arrival. He had promised himself he would come to support the cause, providing education for underprivileged youth, but arriving late felt like stepping into someone else's play and forgetting all the lines. The soft lighting glinted off pristine tablecloths, and the aroma of gourmet food filled the air, wrapping around him like a warm embrace. Yet he couldn't shake the sense of being out of place. He took a deep breath, pushing himself to move further into the crowd. The laughter that filled the room rang out like bells, each peal reminding him of his self-doubt. With each minute ticking by, he wished he had made a better effort to arrive on time, to blend into the crowd, to be a part of something greater. As he wove through the sea of faces, he spotted a large, beautifully crafted plaque displayed prominently on the far wall. With letters etched in gold, it read Hall of Donors, and his heart raced at the sight of it. For a fleeting moment, curiosity overtook anxiety, and he felt compelled to approach. What if his name was etched there? Would that be validation that his contributions mattered? But what if it wasn't? That fear clutched at his throat like a vice. He hesitated, casting a glance over his shoulder before finally pushing himself to the wall, the surface cold beneath his fingertips. The letters stood proud and gleaming as if echoing back at him. A rush of warmth filled his chest, momentarily washing away the doubts that draped over him like a heavy cloak. He had done something good, something meaningful, but as quickly as joy sparked within him, it fizzled, replaced by a nagging feeling. What had he really contributed? Just money, right? A few bills here and there. Growing up, he often felt the sting of financial burden. He thought back to his own childhood living on the outskirts of a city where opportunities ran scarce. His heart sank. Would that ever feel enough? A cheerful voice broke through his thoughts, pulling him back to the present. It was Jenna, the event organizer, her eyes lit with optimism. Yeah, I'm here," he managed, still grappling with his mixed emotions. "You have to meet some amazing people." Without waiting for his answer, she grabbed his hand, leading him away from the plaque. Jenna introduced him to a whirlwind of energy and personalities. Doctors, teachers, philanthropists, all extraordinary individuals, all committed to the same mission. They engaged in animated conversations that echoed with hope and dreams. Yet each time someone asked him about his role, he felt himself shrink just a bit, unsure of what to say. Wasn't he just a latecomer? As the evening unfolded, he watched as laughter clung to each new introduction. Beneath the sparkle of chandeliers and the lighthearted banter, he felt like a shadow lurking just outside a glowing circle of warmth. Jenna was excited, but Alex could hardly feel the pulse of enthusiasm. Then, as if summoning a momentous mashup of fate and hope, a charismatic speaker took the stage, a former student who had benefited from the charity's programs. The crowd erupted in applause, and a hush fell over the hall as she began to tell her story. "I was lost and without options," she said, her voice steady, "but this charity saved me." As she spoke, Alex felt a shift within him. She carried an energy that pulled him in, making him lean forward in his seat. Her journey mirrored the struggles he had faced, but where she found inspiration, he still felt sidelined. Could his small contributions ever inspire someone like that? The applause thumped like a heartbeat around him, and for the first time he felt a flicker of determination wiggle beneath the heaviness. Could he really make a difference? The speaker ended with a resounding message of hope, igniting a fire in the crowd. Alex looked around, witnessing the palpable excitement. A wave of longing washed over him. He didn't just want to witness change, he wanted to be a part of it. His heart raced. As the program progressed, more stories unfolded. Each speaker brought tales of resilience and triumph, and each time they connected back to the contributions that had fueled their journeys. Alex listened intently, feeling the weight of his own doubts press heavier against his chest. He began to reflect on his own life, moments where he had been on the brink of giving up, but something had kept him going. Then Jenna appeared at his side again, her voice low and urgent. "Alex, you need to get involved. You have so much to offer these kids." "I don't know, Jenna," he stammered, his eyes drawn back to the Hall of Donors. She insisted, her eyes fierce. "You've overcome so much. You can show them that they can too. It'd mean the world to so many." Her words wrapped around him tightly, igniting a small spark of hope, but simultaneously shoving his reservations front and center. Could he truly make that kind of impact? Just then, a weighty silence built around them as the final speaker took the stage. A boy no older than 15 stood before the microphone, his eyes wide and bright. "Hi everyone, my name is Jasper," he said, his voice wavering but strong. "I used to think I wasn't smart enough for anything, but then I found this program." Alex's heart raced. The boy's vulnerability struck a chord deep within him. It was like looking into a mirror from another time, his younger self looking for someone to say, "You matter." Tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. Here was a boy who felt as lost as he once did, standing brave and full of hope. The realization sunk in. Alex's contributions reached further than dollars and cents. They were strings of connection, building bridges toward futures where kids like Jasper could thrive. When the applause surrounded Jasper, Alex felt the warmth of empathy cascading over him. He wanted to embrace that energy, to hold it in his heart. He turned to Jenna, her eyes sparkling in the dim light. "Okay," he said, a newfound sense of conviction surging through him. The connection he felt with Jasper fueled a flame that pushed past all the barriers of self-doubt. As the night wore on, with laughter and conversations dancing in the background, he knew he had to step into his power. Later, as the gala wound down and people began to filter out, he returned to the Hall of Donors one last time. The names glimmered softly under the lighting, and his stood bold, etched into the wood, just one voice among many. But now that name held a promise to bring forth hope, to nurture change, and to pave the way for those who felt lost. With a sense of purpose in his heart, he walked out into the cool night air. Alex was no longer simply a latecomer entering a hall of esteemed donors. He had become a part of something much larger. As he breathed in the crispness of the night, he felt a newfound strength surge through him. That evening had sparked a fire, igniting something deep within. The road ahead would be filled with bumps and challenges, but now he felt equipped to journey forward, armed with hope and a commitment to lift others, just as he had once needed to be lifted. He understood now. It was never just about the money donated, but about forging connections, offering support, and becoming part of a community dedicated to creating a brighter future. As he strolled away from the gala, he carried with him the stories of those children and the spark of possibility, ready to embrace whatever came next. The sound of laughter echoed through the halls as Alex sprinted across the parking lot, his heart drumming in his chest. He had promised himself he wouldn't be late, but here he was, chasing the clock for every precious second. Annual gala to support underprivileged youth was in full swing, and with every hurried step he felt the weight of his tardiness pushing down on him. As he reached the grand entrance, he paused for a moment, brushing a hand through his hair to compose himself. Inside, the ballroom glimmered under the light of countless chandeliers, and elegant figures swirled around tables draped in white linen. The fragrance of gourmet dishes wafted in the air, but all Alex could feel was an anxious knot in his stomach. "Get a grip," he whispered to himself, stepping through the doors. But when he crossed the threshold, the atmosphere shifted. Cheers rose from the crowd as yet another speaker began to share their story at the podium. Alex felt like an uninvited guest crashing a party where everyone already knew the script. He could have turned around and walked out, but something held him in place. Perhaps it was the sense of responsibility that came with being a donor, or perhaps it was the faint hope that his presence could still matter. As he stood at the back, the warmth of conversation wrapped around him like a soothing blanket. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. He had given generously this year, but in a world filled with high-profile names and larger-than-life figures, Alex felt small. His gaze drifted toward the elegantly framed plaque affixed to the wall of Hall of Donors. The sight stirred something within him. He walked closer, drawn by an unshakable curiosity and a hint of dread. He had never considered where his name would fall on that list or if it would even be there at all. With shaky fingers, he ran them across the names, a blend of pride and anxiety churning within him, and then recognition struck. In that moment, the world around him faded. The swirling conversations faded to a distant hum, and the applause that erupted for the speaker fell silent in his ears. His heart raced, swelling with a fleeting sense of validation. He was part of this, part of something meaningful, but just as quickly an unsettling thought crept in. The voice of self-doubt loomed large, drowning out the spark of pride he just felt. What was the real impact of his contribution? Just money? Had he really made a difference? Growing up, he had faced struggles of his own. Walls of uncertainty had surrounded him, and they often seemed insurmountable. He thought of the kids he had grown up with, all of whom deserved the same chances he'd been fortunate enough to receive. Suddenly, his heart felt heavy again. The call jolted him back to the present. It was Jenna, the organizer in charge of the evening, her face brightened by excitement. "Yeah, I'm here," he replied, forcing a smile, but the depths of his doubt lingered, an anchor pulling him down. "Come on, you have to meet some people." Jenna beamed, pulling him away from the plaque as if somehow sensing his internal struggle. And so they moved through the festivities, Jenna introducing him to an array of personalities, ambitious educators, philanthropists, and inspiring individuals who had dedicated their lives to lifting others. Each time someone greeted him, the weight of his own insecurities pressed down harder. They would ask, and he felt his throat tight. "I'm just a donor," he would say, each word feeling inadequate and hollow. He shied away from sharing his story, worried it would reveal him to be more ordinary than he felt inside. Then the program began to officially kick off. Jenna leaned in and whispered, "Just wait." One by one, speakers took the stage, recounting their journeys. Each story hummed with resilience, and a thread of hope weaved through the air. The speakers were vibrant: a former student who now worked in finance, a teacher who dedicated her life to inspiring children, and a philanthropist who spoke passionately about their vision for the future. Each tale seemed to echo the same idea: every contribution, no matter how small, mattered. Alex tried to focus, yet those voices pulled him further into his own thoughts. He couldn't help but think of how he used to feel small within the walls of his own high school, where dreams often felt like distant stars just beyond his reach. Would his contributions really help someone else find their path? Would that nameless kid searching for something more finally feel seen? And then it happened, an unexpected twist in the night. The final speaker took to the podium, a young boy named Jasper, no older than 15. With a mix of nervousness and determination, he cleared his throat. "Hi, everyone." The boy's voice trembled but grew stronger as he spoke about his struggles with self-worth and doubt. "I thought I was just invisible, but thanks to this program I learned to believe in myself," he said. His eyes sparkled with determination. A wave of emotion surged through Alex. In Jasper's words, he heard the echoes of his own childhood, the fears, the uncertainty, the yearning to be more. Tears pricked the corners of his eyes. How could someone so young carry such hope? When the applause erupted in the room, Alex caught Jenna's eye. Her pride in this young man radiated like a beacon. In that moment, Alex understood this wasn't just about his contributions or even his name on that plaque. This was about something larger, a community that thrived on support and belief. After Jasper's speech, Jenna turned to him, her expression earnest. "You see, Alex, this is what it's all about. You can be a part of this." Though his heart raced, a flicker of bravery ignited within him. The words surprised even him, seeming to burst forth without hesitation. "Mentor, share your experiences." Jenna was practically vibrating with enthusiasm, and Alex felt his own energy rising. As the night continued, the fog of doubt began to lift. The powerful stories he had heard sparked a sense of responsibility within him. He wanted to share his journey, his lessons learned, and to show other kids that their past didn't have to dictate their future. With each conversation that unfolded, he realized how intertwined these lives were, and beneath the glitz of the gala there existed a core of shared humanity that connected everyone in that room. After the program ended, while others began to exit, Alex made his way back to the Hall of Donors one last time. The names shimmered softly under the dim light, but his eyes were drawn not just to his own name, but to the collective effort that it represented. His name looked different this time. It symbolized commitment and potential, a promise to others. He could lend a hand, offer guidance, and help open doors that once felt closed. As he stepped outside into the cool night air, a sense of liberation washed over him. He had arrived late, but that was irrelevant now. He was fueled by purpose not only for himself, but for those who would benefit from his experiences. He had witnessed how bright futures were shaped, and he was ready to help shape those futures. The stars twinkled overhead, and the path ahead shimmered with possibility. No longer just a name on a wall, Alex was finally stepping into his story, a story of hope, connection, and resilience. As he moved forward, it was clear he would make every moment count from here on out, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The clock struck 7, and the air was electric. Guests milled about the grand ballroom, their laughter mingling with the smooth notes of a string quartet. People in elegant dresses twirled like autumn leaves in the wind, while men in sharp suits exchanged warm greetings. But for Alex Thompson, the swirl of joy felt more like a storm cloud hovering overhead. He had arrived late, slipping in through the gilded doors just as the night gathered momentum. Alex had paced through the lot in a rush, wishing he hadn't stalled at home. He had hoped to arrive early and mingle, but now he felt like an intruder, sneaking into a party already in full swing. Trying to gather himself, he stepped inside the ballroom, scanning the room for familiar faces. Anxiety twisted in his stomach as he felt the weight of 1,000 judgments. The soft glow of the chandeliers seemed to spotlight him, and each smile around him felt more like a reminder of his tardiness. But he wouldn't just turn around and leave. No, tonight was important. He had pledged to support this charity, committed to the cause of helping underprivileged kids gain access to education. He had worked hard for years and set aside money to donate. It was more than just a write-off, it meant something to him. He just had to find a way to connect with the event and let that meaning resonate within. As he moved deeper into the hall, a striking wooden plaque caught his eye. Laser-engraved letters shimmered like jewels against polished ochre hall of donors. Each name was etched in a way that suggested honor, legitimacy, and a shared mission. Like the stars in a night sky, some names were larger than others, but they all made the same constellation. With shaky hands, he approached the plaque, a mix of excitement and trepidation swirling in his chest. Would his name be there? Would people recognize his contribution? He leaned in closer, scanning the list with a racing heart. Bold, proud, undeniable. In that instant, the world around him faded. A sudden rush of pride swelled within him, but it quickly morphed into a pang of self-doubt. He wondered. All the names surrounding his carried weight, people who had given millions, who were influential, and who had shaped the very foundation of this charity. He remembered his own struggles, the nights spent worrying about bills, the desperate grasp for a better life. He had donated, yes, but he wasn't in that level of giving. They weren't just names, they were legacies. Just as the storm of emotions threatened to pull him under, a voice called out from behind. Alex, it was Jenna, the event organizer, her vibrant smile standing out even in the shimmering room. She rushed over, wrapping him in a warm hug. He returned the hug, feeling a moment of relief, but the weight of his late arrival still clung to him. Oh, it's fine. What matters is that you're here now. Trust me, our speakers tonight are incredible. Before he could respond, Jenna pulled him along, introducing him to a whirlwind of passionate individuals, teachers, entrepreneurs, and community leaders. Their stories poured out like an overflowing cup, each tale born from a desire to uplift those around them. But Alex felt himself retreating into the shadows as they recounted their immense contributions, their passion burning brightly in contrast to his uncertain flicker. Just a donor, just a guy who helps out, he thought bitterly, suppressing the urge to voice his insecurities. He simply nodded along, adding polite acknowledgments in response to their enthusiastic descriptions. It was hard to picture himself in their world, where people were making headlines and creating tangible change. Yet there was a longing within him, an echoing desire to be more than just an observer. He had witnessed behind-the-scenes struggles of youth. He carried scars from his own journey. He thought of the young faces he hoped to help. As he half-heartedly engaged in conversation, a speaker took the stage, commanding immediate attention. "Welcome, everyone." The crowd erupted in applause, a wave of energy washing over the hall. Just as quickly, silence fell, drawing Alex into the story that was about to unfurl. The speaker shared his journey of growing up in a neighborhood filled with despair, where education seemed like a distant dream. But thanks to the charity, he was able to build a future. Tears glistened in his eyes as he spoke about graduating college, becoming a mentor, and giving back to the very community that had lifted him. The audience hung onto every word, nodding and murmuring in approval. Alex felt something shift within him. That voice, that testimony was powerful. It mirrored pieces of his own struggles. Could he do the same? He glanced around at the crowd, feeling the pulse of hope thrumming through the room like a heartbeat. The sense of unity enveloped him, and soon the next speaker took the stand, a former teacher, still radiant with passion. As she spoke so eloquently about her students' transformations, Alex found himself leaning forward, captivated. With each story, his barriers began to crumble. He felt a flicker of inspiration ignite within him. There was a time when he was that kid, lost and yearning. Maybe he was meant to share his journey and lend his voice. As the evening wore on, another speaker, a dreamy-eyed young girl named Leela, took the mic. Her story was one of bravery amidst darkness. "I didn't know my worth until I was rescued by this program," she shared. She smiled wide, and her joy radiated, lighting up the entire room. Alex's heart swelled, recognizing a feeling deep within himself, a flicker of hope that had been dormant for too long. After Leela stepped down, Jenna nudged him. "What do you think?" His mind raced. Could he really stand up there? "I don't know, Jenna. You'd be surprised. Everyone has a story." That idea tugged at him, opening doors in his mind that he thought had long been closed. The realization dawned on him. He had a past that mattered, and with it, the ability to inspire. As the gala continued, Alex's perspective shifted. He saw how connected everyone was, each name on that plaque not merely a donation but a thread in a larger tapestry of community and support. The desire to be involved transformed from a whisper to a shout, reverberating through him. But just as the excitement peaked within him, an unmistakable shadow of fear lingered at the edges of his thoughts. Facing his own insecurities felt daunting, a beast he had kept caged for so long. And what if he stumbled? What if his story fell flat? That uncertainty sparked a fierce battle in his mind, but the evening pressed on, shifting into its final segments. The announcer stepped up, face alight with anticipation. Alex felt his heart race. People stood and cheered as the names were read, donors who gave hefty amounts, life-changing contributions lighting up the crowd. In disbelief, he froze, feeling all eyes on him. Shock coursed through him. He made his way to the front, an electric current sparking in his chest. Applause erupted and bright lights illuminated him. He felt vulnerable yet exhilarated at the same time. Standing before everyone, the applause ringing in his ears, Alex was reminded that this was more than just a recognition of financial contribution. It was an acknowledgement of his potential to create change, to be part of a community that uplifted those in need. For a moment, time froze, and as he looked out into the audience, he saw the faces of people who cared. The connection surged through him, warm like sunlight breaking through clouds. In that moment, he understood this was not just about him. Remembering Leela's powerful story, he thought about how important it was to share his struggles, to offer a glimmer of hope to others facing darkness. Taking a deep breath, words began to flow. "Thank you for this honor. I've always felt that giving was just about money, but tonight I've realized it's so much more." The crowd responded with a chorus of cheers, and Alex's heart swelled. He continued, his voice gaining strength. "We all carry stories, and it's essential we share them, be it fear, triumph, or a simple act of kindness." Tears welled in his eyes, but this time they weren't tears of doubt, they were tears of hope, of purpose. The applause was like a wave washing over him, filling him with a sense of belonging he had long yearned for. When he returned to his seat, the flood of emotions lingered, a mixture of euphoria and realization. He wasn't just a name on the plaque anymore, he was a living story, part of something larger. As the night wound down, he drifted back to the Hall of Donors one last time, the names glistening under the soft light. There it was, his name, nestled among the others. No longer felt like a solitary line. It represented a commitment to something vast, an invitation to share stories, to connect, and to uplift. Stepping outside into the fresh night air, Alex felt lighter, empowered. He had shown up late, yes, but the journey had just begun. No longer just a spectator, he was ready to engage, to inspire, and to make a difference. He could hear the voices echoing in the distance, the voices of children craving hope, and he was finally ready to answer that call. Tonight had changed him, sculpting his path forward, igniting a desire to reach out, to lend his light to others, combining stories and hopes into something magnificent. The future was bright, and he was ready to embrace it, one story at a time. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, echoing like a drumbeat in Alex's heart. He stood outside the bustling ballroom, a swirl of laughter and chatter spilling through the grand entrance. Just before stepping inside, he tugged at his collar, attempting to smooth the creases of his shirt, but it did little to calm the storm brewing in his chest. He had promised himself he would arrive on time, but here he was late, anxious, and feeling utterly out of place. As he crossed the threshold, the atmosphere enveloped him like a warm wave, yet he felt more like a ghost drifting through a vibrant party. The room sparkled under the soft glow of chandeliers, their light glinting off glasses filled with champagne. Elegant couples danced, their laughter ringing out, but Alex felt entirely disconnected. A deep breath settled in his lungs, but it didn't bring the relief he craved. Could he really belong in a place like this? Tonight was the annual gala to support the educational charity he cared about deeply. He had poured his heart into his contribution, a small act in a much larger movement, yet suddenly all those feelings of inadequacy came rushing back. Faces lit with delight blurred around him, but he felt heavy, grappling with the thought that maybe his contribution didn't matter as much as he hoped. Then, out of the corner of his eye, something caught his gaze. A beautiful wooden plaque, intricate and polished, mounted prominently on the wall, the Hall of Donors. It stood like a beacon amid the revelry, and his heart skipped a beat. Curiosity pulled him closer, floating through the crowd like a lost sailor headed toward a lighthouse. He stumbled toward the plaque, each step heavy with expectation. As he neared, the names stared back at him, elegantly engraved and shining under the light. His fingertips hovered over the names, a mix of pride and dread swirling within him. In that moment, time slowed. A wave of warmth rushed through him. His name was there, permanent, part of something important. But as quickly as joy flickered to life, doubt crashed down once more. What had he truly done to deserve this? Just a little money, a small sacrifice compared to others. He thought of his own childhood, the struggles he faced growing up in a neighborhood where dreams felt distant, education often a luxury. He wondered. That doubt wrapped around him like a heavy cloak, making him feel even smaller in this grand hall. The walls seemed to close in, the laughter ringing out sharper than before. Had he truly earned the right to be up there, his name nestled among titans? Just then, a bright voice shattered his introspection. It was Jenna, the event organizer, her eyes sparkling with excitement as she glided over to him. "Hey, I made it," he replied, attempting a semblance of confidence, but the weight of his late arrival still hung heavy. "Come on." She grabbed his elbow, pulling him along, her energy bubbling, and for a moment he felt the warmth of camaraderie. Jenna introduced him to a whirlwind of faces: enthusiastic teachers, impassioned philanthropists, and former students whose lives had been transformed by the charity. Each person shared their story with fervor, their laughter ringing as they relayed their dreams and successes. But as they spoke, Alex felt increasingly marginalized, a faded note in an orchestra of high notes. He listened, trying to be present, but every enthusiastic recounting sharpened the voice of self-doubt in his mind. "What do I even say? I'm just a donor," he thought bitterly, feeling like an empty shell among vibrant shells scattered across the floor. As the evening progressed, the program began. A charismatic speaker took the stage, commanding the room. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Alex felt the energy shift, and every word spoken drew him in deeper. The speaker's story unfolded like a tapestry, revealing a past filled with struggle but woven through with hope and determination. The man spoke of the very community where he had grown up and how, with the charity's help, he had surmounted incredible odds to achieve his dreams. As the man finished, the applause thundered, resonating through Alex's chest. It stirred something he hadn't expected: a sense of connection, but also a longing. Could he stand up there someday, sharing his own story? As each speaker took their turn, their stories rippled through the audience like an electric current. A former student, a girl named Mia, shared her journey of resilience, how the support she received transformed her life. With each story, inspiration poured into Alex's heart, igniting a glimmer of courage. He felt lifted, almost as if their words were urging him to step forward. It was then that Jenna nudged him, her excitement palpable. "You see, this is why you should get involved more." "I don't know, Jenna," he hesitated, thinking of his own struggles, the weight of disappointment that sometimes felt too heavy to bear. "What do I have to offer?" "You'd be surprised," she encouraged, but the lingering doubt continued to claw at him. With every story he absorbed, his fear wrestled with newfound hope. What if he could speak, could uplift others? The thought nudged at him, a whisper of possibility, and then it happened. The final speaker, an articulate boy named Jasper, stepped up to the microphone. He looked nervous but resolute, his eyes shining with determination. "Hi everyone." His voice wavered but grew stronger as he spoke about his struggles, sharing the isolation he felt in his community and how he once believed his future was bleak. But with the charity's help, Jasper had found purpose. He proclaimed, the joy radiating off him like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. Tears filled Alex's eyes as he heard Jasper's words resonate with his own experiences. That boy's courage mirrored everything he had gone through as a child. Suddenly, the stakes felt higher than ever. It was about more than just showing up, it was about reaching out. After the applause faded, Jenna looked at Alex, her expression encouraging. "You could inspire kids like Jasper, you've been where they are." His heart raced at the thought. The gala pressed on, filled with stories that danced in the air, but now they felt different. He was no longer a spectator. He sensed that he was on the verge of something profound. The names on the plaque no longer seemed daunting, but a tapestry of inspiration woven from shared struggles. As the evening concluded, the announcer transitioned to a moment of recognition. "We'd like to honor some of our extraordinary supporters tonight," he announced. The crowd buzzed with excitement, and Alex felt a knot in his stomach. Would his name even be called? The announcer continued, reading off names, and each time a familiar name arose, applause erupted. His heart raced faster, and a gut feeling churned in anticipation, and then it happened. Silence fell like a blanket over the room. In disbelief, Alex froze, feeling all eyes shift toward him. Shock coursed through him, paralysis gripping him momentarily. Slowly, he moved toward the stage, the applause crashing against him like waves breaking against the shore. As he stood under the bright lights, the warmth of applause settled around him, merging with his swirling thoughts. This was not just a celebration of financial support. It was a commitment to the cause, an acknowledgement that he had a part to play in something bigger. In the moment, words formed effortlessly in his mind, his heart racing with newfound clarity. "Thank you for this honor." The crowd listened intently, and he could see reflected in their eyes hope, warmth, and validation. "I've come from a place where dreams felt unreachable, but standing here tonight, I believe that together we can uplift each other." Applause erupted again, and the energy in the room shifted, buzzing with connection. There was an understanding that resonated. This was a shared journey, a collective story. Stepping off the stage, Alex felt lighter, his doubts melting away. The experience transformed him, igniting a fire inside that had long been dulled by insecurity. He had been catapulted from the shadows into the light, a shift that carried a promise for the future. As the gala wound down, he returned to the Hall of Donors once more, but this time felt different. The plaque shone brighter, each name a testament to the impact that could be made when people came together. His name glimmered among the others, no longer just a mark of financial contribution but a call to action, a promise to help others find their paths. With purposeful strides, he stepped into the cool night air, feeling the world shift around him. He had arrived late, but the evening had gifted him with far more than he ever expected. It had awakened a sense of purpose and belonging, wrapped around him like a warm embrace. This was the beginning of a new chapter. He wasn't merely a name on a wall, he was a living, breathing testament to resilience and change. As he walked away, every step echoed with newfound determination. He was ready to embrace his journey and help others find their light, guiding them toward their futures, one step at a time. The clock on the wall chimed 7 times, each sound slicing through the air like a knife. Alex Thompson stood just outside the grand entrance of the ballroom, heart racing, feeling the weight of the occasion pressing down on him. He had promised himself he wouldn't be late to this charity gala, yet here he was, watching as the golden light spilled from the doors and enveloped a sea of laughter and festive chatter. To say he felt out of place would be an understatement. The elegant flurry of suits and gowns swirled around him, each person seemingly lost in their own world of significance and purpose. As he stood in the parking lot, a swirl of emotions grappled with his mind, anticipation, excitement, and above all, anxiety. He had spent countless evenings contemplating this event and why it mattered so much to him, yet as he hesitated, all of that reasoning felt distant. Taking a deep breath, he stepped through the doors, and the warmth of the room washed over him. But as he moved further inside, he couldn't help but feel like a ghost haunting a gathering of the living. Each laugh rang out like a reminder of his tardiness, amplifying the insecurities that had followed him through the years. He had seen the impact of this charity, and while he knew it could transform lives, there was a voice in him whispering that maybe he didn't belong here. Spotting an open space near the far side of the room, he attempted to blend into the crowd, but his gaze was drawn to a beautiful wooden plaque mounted on the wall of the Hall of Donors. He felt an inexplicable pull, his heart beating faster with each step toward it. There it stood, high above the bustle, as if it packed the power to answer the questions swirling in his mind. With tentative fingers, he brushed against the smooth surface of the plaque. The names were etched in a delicate script, gleaming gently under the warm light. He scanned the list, feeling a mix of hope and dread course through him. Would he find his name? Would it be among the esteemed contributors who had made significant sacrifices for the cause? A wash of warmth enveloped him. He felt a rush of validation, a mix of pride and disbelief, but that feeling was fleeting, quickly snuffed out by a wave of doubt that crashed around him. His mind raced back to the days of his childhood, times when he had felt powerless, grappling with every failure and setback. He thought about every late night spent studying, every job he had taken working tirelessly to build a better life. But standing here now in a room filled with people who had likely given so much more, he felt insignificant. Just then, a familiar voice jolted him out of his thoughts. Alex. It was Jenna, the enthusiastic event organizer, her smile infectious. She rushed over, wrapping him in a brief hug. "You're just in time." Dragging him from the plaque, Jenna introduced him to a slew of individuals who all seemed larger than life. Doctors, educators, philanthropists, each spoke with passion, their words a whirlwind of inspiration. Alex couldn't help but feel the walls closing in, the air turning stale. Each introduction chipped away at his self-esteem, reminding him of how far he felt from their world. They asked. His voice felt small, barely able to hold the weight of what it implied. Would they see through him? Could they sense his insecurities lurking just under the surface? As various stories unfolded around him like pages of a book, he began to feel as though he was merely a footnote in someone else's narrative. Despite his attempts to engage, his mind drowned under self-doubt. Strange, he had poured his heart and resources into this charity, yet he felt like a ghost among vibrant souls. But then the program began. The lights dimmed slightly, shifting the focus toward a stage adorned with fresh flowers and a single microphone. An air of anticipation swept through the crowd, lifting spirits. The keynote speaker took the stage, a woman with radiant energy. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she beamed. Applause erupted, and Alex felt his heart race in rhythm with the crowd. Her story began to unfold, a tale of overcoming adversity, of fueling her passion for education, of seeing hope where once there was none. Her journey spoke to him, awakening feelings he'd buried deep. He could visualize the struggles she faced, the moments of despair that threatened to extinguish her dreams. As she spoke, he felt her strength, her resilience. It was a magnetic connection pulling him into her story. And then the next speaker, a former student of the charity, stepped forward. Her name was Samantha, and she exuded confidence. She recounted her own difficulties, how she felt trapped in a world that told her she wouldn't succeed. Yet through the charity's support, she discovered a love for science, a calling that now had her on the brink of graduating from college. "I am here because someone believed in me," she said, her voice resonating in the quiet room. With every story, Alex's heart expanded with hope. He started to see the tangible impact of the donations, money, and effort translating into change and opportunities. Then, just as he felt the tidal shift in his emotions, a stranger took the stage. A young boy named Jamie, no more than 12, stood before the crowd. He looked nervous but determined, "Hi everyone, I'm Jamie," he stuttered, but soon his confidence blossomed. "I used to think I wouldn't get anywhere in life, but because of this charity, I'm learning programming." Jamie finished, Alex felt tears welling up in his eyes. This kid, standing courageous and bright, reminded him of himself not so long ago. He was filled with an overwhelming urge to reach out, to connect, to light the way for someone just starting their journey. The applause thundered around him, and he caught Jenna's eye, her smile wide and encouraging. "This is what it's all about," she said softly. "You could do this too, Alex." Fear and hope wrestled within him. What could he possibly say that would matter? But then, as the voices around him faded into an echo, clarity struck him. Maybe it wasn't about perfection. Maybe it was simply about honesty, about connection. The evening progressed, and after the speeches, Jenna urged him to stick around for a few more moments of reflection. He looked towards the stage and then back to her, uncertainty lacing his thoughts. He whispered. She countered, her voice steady and reassuring. That thought resonated deeply with him. What if he actually had something valuable to say? As the gala wrapped up, the event organizer announced an appreciation segment. "We want to recognize some extraordinary donors tonight," she said, her voice booming over the room. Alex felt his pulse quicken. Would his name be called? The names rolled off her tongue, and as they echoed in the hall, applause erupted with every announcement. He leaned forward, the anticipation building in his chest. Names like Jenna Williams and David Kim brought joyous shoutouts, yet each one left him feeling increasingly insignificant. And then it happened. The room erupted in applause, the sound sweeping over him like a crashing wave. His heart raced as disbelief filled his mind. All eyes were on him. Frozen momentarily beneath the warm glow of the lights, he felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. Finally finding his footing, he moved through the crowd, the applause echoing with every step. When he reached the stage, a new weight filled his chest, a sweet sense of purpose. Standing there under the spotlight, he felt the walls of doubt begin to crumble. "Thank you," he started, his voice steady. "I never thought I'd find my name on this plaque. I've always thought of giving as just money." Looking out at the audience, he felt an urgent need to connect. "I've walked through struggles and uncertainties," he continued. "But what's important is believing in each other's journeys." A thunderous round of applause erupted, and for the first time he felt a sense of belonging that felt profound. The realization that sharing his story mattered seemed to intertwine with those of others, creating a beautiful tapestry of shared struggle and triumph. After stepping off stage, he was flooded with warmth. The fear that had once tethered him now felt like an anchor transformed into a guiding light. He returned to the Hall of Donors, eyes landing on his name once again. This time it was a symbol no longer just etched wood, but a call to action, a mission. He wasn't merely a participant, he was now part of an intricate network of hope, each name connected like threads weaving a beautiful fabric of community. As the night wound down, Alex stepped out into the fresh air, the stars shining brightly above, each one seeming to blink in recognition. He realized he had arrived late, yes, but perhaps the timing was perfect. He had found his voice, his purpose, and the community that would lift him up. The journey ahead was paved with promise and purpose. He had stories to share, lives to touch, and futures to help shape. Leaving the gala behind him, he walked toward the unknown future, conviction grounding each step he took. Every heartbeat echoed with the knowledge that he was part of something extraordinary, ready to embrace whatever came next. The clock ticked relentlessly, echoing like a relentless drum in Alex's mind. It was 7 o'clock, and the gala was already in full swing. Outside the grand ballroom, he gripped the doorknob, hesitating for just a moment. The golden light spilled from inside, illuminating a world that felt both inviting and intimidating. He could hear a sea of laughter and chatter, but right now, it all felt like a storm crashing around him. He muttered to himself, shaking his head. He had promised himself he would be here on time to show support for the charity that held this gala, the one dedicated to providing education for underserved youth. But traffic had betrayed him, and here he stood, late and nervous. Taking a deep breath, he opened the door and stepped in. The sheer beauty of the room nearly took his breath away. Glittering chandeliers hung from the ceiling like clusters of stars, and tables dressed in white linen sparkled under dim light. Yet, as he looked around, that familiar feeling of being an outsider washed over him. It was like walking into a movie where everyone else had already learned their lines. Gathering his courage, he moved through the crowd, his eyes darting, looking for a friendly face or a safe corner. But every laugh and cheer felt like a reminder of his tardiness, scoring points against his sense of self-worth. He was just a drop in this ocean of glimmer, and he could feel the undercurrents of anxiety tugging at him. Then something caught his eye, a striking wooden plaque mounted prominently on the wall. This was the Hall of Donors, a testament to those who had contributed to the cause. A mix of curiosity and apprehension coursed through him as he approached. This was the moment. Would his name be there? Standing there, the names glimmered under the light. Each one told a story, each engraved letter draped in purpose. He scanned the list, anticipation thrumming beneath his skin. A wave of warmth surged through him. There it was, his name, shining with pride. But almost instantaneously, that joy was clouded by doubt. He thought, a mere monetary contribution felt so small against the monumental stories surrounding him. Memories of his childhood flickered in the back of his mind, the struggles, the fears, the relentless questioning of his worth. Did he even belong here? Just as the spiral of self-doubt threatened to pull him under, a familiar voice pierced through the fog. Alex, it was Jenna, the organizer of the event, her face lit up with enthusiasm. She glided toward him like a ray of sunshine breaking through the storm clouds. "Hey Jenna," he managed, a weak smile playing on his lips. The warmth of her presence felt comforting, but the shadows of his insecurities loomed large. "Don't just stand there, you need to meet everyone," she insisted, and before he could respond, she took him by the hand and pulled him into the vibrant throng. She whisked him from one group to another, introducing him to a whirlwind of enthusiastic individuals. Doctors who worked tirelessly, educators whose hearts exploded with passion, and philanthropists who were more than just names on a plaque. Each person radiated energy and purpose, and each story told only deepened Alex's sense of being an outsider. Someone asked him, and the question wedged itself in his throat. The weight of his answer hung like a stone. "I'm just a donor," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. The evening continued to unfold with elegance and laughter, but Alex felt more like a shadow trailing behind a parade of lights. Each moment of engagement from those around him highlighted a truth he couldn't escape. He didn't belong here, not in a room filled with dreamers and doers way beyond his reach. Then the program began. The lights dimmed slightly, focusing attention on a stage adorned with flowers and a single microphone. The mood shifted, an electric pulse sweeping through the crowd. Jenna leaned in, her voice humming with excitement. "Just wait until you hear the speakers," and incredible they were. A former student took the stage, her face alight with passion. As she shared her journey, her words painted a picture of resilience. "I was lost, trapped in a world that told me I wasn't worthy of my dreams." The audience burst into applause, and Alex felt the emotion swell within him. Her story echoed within the chambers of his own heart, reminding him of the struggles he had faced. But as soon as one speaker finished, another took the stage, an energetic young boy named Jamie, no more than 10 years old. "Hi, everyone," he shouted into the mic, his voice vibrating with confidence. "A year ago, I didn't think I'd ever succeed." The crowd erupted in cheers, and Alex couldn't help but feel a tight knot of inspiration forming in his chest. If this young boy could find hope in something so ordinary, then surely he had his own story to share. But what would it be? As the night wore on, more speakers filled the stage, each one pouring their heart into their stories, illuminating the struggles of youth and the transformative power of education. With each heartfelt narrative, every beat of applause resonated in Alex's heart, igniting a desire to belong, to contribute in a way that meant something. But as he looked around, doubt crawled back in, draping around him like cloak. What could he possibly offer that could inspire others? What voice did he have? In that haze of uncertainty and inspiration, he sensed Jenna watching him from across the room, her encouraging smile seeping through the crowd like sunlight. "You could do this, Alex," her eyes seemed to say. For a moment, time froze. The last speaker, a woman with fiery passion, wrapped up her story and turned to the audience. "Everyone has the power to inspire," she said. That statement struck a chord. It echoed within him, rising from the depths of his fears. What if he could? What if the stories they shared illuminated the path for someone else? Suddenly, there was a weight on his heart that felt heavy yet empowering. As the evening neared its end, Jenna pulled him aside. "Alex, I want you to know how important your contribution is. You've helped so many people, even if you can't see it yet," she said softly. "Thanks, Jenna." The words burst out before he could hold them in. She insisted, "You do matter." For the first time, her words resonated deep within him. He thought, but just as the idea blossomed, an unmistakable doubt surfaced. What if he failed? "Trust me, just give it a shot. You've been a donor for years. You've witnessed the transformations," she urged, her eyes shining with sincerity. As they spoke, a murmur swept through the crowd. The announcer took the stage, ready to transition into a segment honoring the donors. Alex's heart raced as he realized he might hear his name, but the creeping fear returned. Would he even be recognized? The lighting dimmed slightly, drawing focus onto the speaker. "Let's begin with our distinguished donors." The announcer called out name after name, each one met with applause. Time froze for a heartbeat, then sudden realization struck. All eyes were on him as he slowly made his way to the stage, the applause swallowing him like a wave. His heart pounded in his chest, a mix of fear and exhilaration surging through him. Standing in front of the crowd, he felt vulnerable yet powerful. "Thank you," he began, glancing over the sea of faces. He saw Jenna beaming at him from the side, her encouragement like a warm blanket. Suddenly, everything shifted. The weight of his doubts started to fade as he felt an overwhelming urge to speak. "When I first decided to donate, I thought it was just about money," he said, focusing on the audience's expectant eyes. "But tonight, I've learned it's so much more." As he shared, one thought echoed in his mind: "This isn't just about me." The applause grew louder, reverberating through him. With each heartbeat, he found deeper strength, deeper conviction. He addressed not just the audience, but a new generation of dreamers standing on the precipice of possibility. But then, at that powerful moment, the lights flickered and the room filled with a low hum of confusion. He blinked, puzzled, as whispers surged through the crowd. He wondered. A shadow moved from the back of the crowd, and suddenly a voice called out, "Alex." The voice sliced through the chaos, snapping his focus. "I need to tell you something," the figure shouted, breaking through the gathering murmur. Alex felt a chill run down his spine as he turned to see a familiar face, one he hadn't expected to see tonight. The figure approached, urgency in their steps, his heart pounding in his ears like a war drum. What could this mean? As the crowd began to quiet in anticipation, Alex stood on the brink of revelation, wondering what this moment could possibly hold for him. The world outside the gala dimmed, and a new weight settled in, an unknown and unspoken truth that hung in the air, electric and alive. "Alex," the voice called again, its urgency raising the hair on the back of his neck. And in that moment, everything shifted, a new chapter poised to unfold, leaving Alex on the precipice of something he couldn't yet grasp, a truth that could change everything. What could it be? What would he learn in that charged moment? The answers loomed just beyond his grasp, waiting to unfold.